19%. That is how much Rocket Lab, ticker RKLB, fell this week, from about $100.46 all the way back down to $81.04. Coach B here. This is Last Week in the Markets, where we look at what actually happened and pull one lesson out of it. And here's the part that matters. That is almost exactly where it started its big run 2 weeks ago. It round tripped the entire thing, and it was not the only high flyer that gave it all back. So this week is really the third chapter of a story we've been following, and it teaches you the single most important thing about a bounce. Let me set the scene. 2 weeks ago, a whole group of beaten down, high beta names got crushed. Then last week, those exact same names came roaring back. 20, 25, 30% in a single week, and I told you it looked like a targeted snapback, not a real trend. Well, this week we got the answer. Most of that snapback faded. Here's the driver. On Wednesday, the Fed released the minutes from its June meeting, and the tone leaned hawkish. 9 of the 19 officials penciled in at least one more rate hike this year, and the committee said the risks to inflation were still tilted to the upside. In plain English, higher for longer is still on the table. And when rates stay higher for longer, the names that get hit first are exactly the most speculative, rate-sensitive, high beta names, the ones that had just bounced the hardest. Now watch what happened to the tape, because this is the twist. The broad market did not sell off. The S&P 500 through SPY was up about 1.4% on the week. The NASDAQ 100, the Qs actually led, up about 1.8%. Small caps, the IWM, were down about 0.5%, and the Dow was down about 0.4. So the index tape quietly ground higher, and the VIX, the market's fear gauge, drifted down to about 15, closing at 1503, calm the whole way, with just a little pop on Wednesday when those minutes came out. So if the broad market was fine and the Qs actually led, where did the pain go? Let's run the winners and losers, because the split is the whole story. On the winning side, the leadership came from the biggest, highest quality names in the AI and chip trade. Broadcom, ticker AVGO, was the top mover on our board, up almost 11% to right around $400, pushing to fresh highs. NVIDIA, NVDA, was up more than 8%, closing at 210.96 after a strong Friday. Even Supermicro added 4%, and Tesla added about 3.5%. And on the losing side, the exact same names that ripped last week. Rocket Lab down more than 19%. Moderna, mRNA, down 14.5%, giving back its FDA vote pop as the euphoria faded. And remember, the real decision on that one is not until August 5th. Rivian gave back 6%. Palantir slipped 2%. So the money did not leave the market. It rotated out of the speculative bounce names and into the large cap AI leaders. Let me show you the cleanest example on a real chart. This is Rocket Lab. 2 weeks ago, it bottomed right around $80. Last week, it ripped all the way back to 100. And this week, it went right back down, closing at 81 on Friday, a complete round trip, back to where the whole move started. Now there was real news here. An $8 billion deal to buy Iridium, part cash and part stock, and the CEO selling around $286 million of his own shares through a preset plan. We will break that whole story down in its own video, but for today, the chart tells you the lesson all by itself. Okay, here is the teachable moment, and it is the third chapter of the story. 2 weeks ago, these names got crushed. Last week, they snapped back. This week, they gave it back. And the lesson is this. A relief bounce is not a trend. When a stock that has been beaten down pops 20 or 30% in a week with no real change in the actual business, that is usually just mean reversion, and mean reversion fades. The real trend was somewhere else the whole time, in the boring, high-quality AI leaders that quietly kept making new highs while everybody was watching the fireworks. So how do you tell them apart? You watch where the money stays, not where it pops for a day. A bounce shows up as a 1 week spike that round trips. A trend shows up as a name that keeps grinding higher week after week. Rocket Lab was the bounce. Broadcom was the trend. Same market, same week, two completely different things. And knowing which one you are looking at is the entire game that sets up tomorrow. In last week, we look back. In the week ahead, we look forward. And this coming week, the real Q2 earnings season kicks off with the big banks. So come back for that. If learning to tell a relief bounce from a real trend before it costs you is the kind of thing you want every week. Subscribe. And Last Week in the Markets will be right here for you each weekend. Quick reminder before we go. This is education, not financial advice. I am not telling you to buy or sell anything. Do your own research. Every ticker here is just a teaching example. That is the week. Good luck in the markets, no matter what stock you're into.